Hello, welcome to the January 2022 Complexity Weekend Heartbeat. Really looking forward to your participation. We're going to start with a 25-minute song by Michael Garfield, Future Fossils, and then we will have the opening live stream for the January 22 Heartbeat. After that, all activities will be in the Gather space. Just check your program, your email, or the calendar event for all the links. All right, so 25 minutes of Michael Garfield, and then we will see you soon for the opening live stream, followed by everything else being in Gather. Thanks again. See you soon. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Heartbeat live stream. I'm Daniel, and I'm here with
Sasha.
All right, so we are going to go through the opening slides, and then we're going to do a little Jamboard, and the rest of the Heartbeat will be in Gather and will be interactive and not recorded. So welcome everybody to Complexity Weekend. In this organizer's intro video, first we'll talk a little bit about who we are and some registration statistics, and then give some information on how to participate in Complexity Weekend and go through the purpose, values, and guidelines of Complexity Weekend. We'll then go over the January 2022 Complexity Weekend Heartbeat specifically, and talk a little bit about the event program, as well as using the Gather platform, which is the only tool required for this Heartbeat. And then we'll see how it's going, see how people are feeling, and then do the interactive Jamboard session. So first, we'll go to talk about Complexity Weekend. And also, if you're watching along live, please feel free to add any questions in chat. Yes, it is a little bit early here. So, Complexity Weekend Community of Practice. Well, the history and initial conditions are very important for complex systems. The first Complexity Weekend was in person in May 2019 in San Francisco. And since then, we've had 4 fully online Complexity Weekend cohorts. We did May and October 2020 and May and November 2021. And now we are heading into the next phase, into 2022. Each of these weekends has been an awesome opportunity to develop on the event format and understand about what a cohort needs and what they can be. One other way to view this in terms of the community energy through time is this figure. Here, the green line, the y-axis is like the energy or the synchronous excitement of the community. And the weekends, the cohort-based weekends, are like the big peaks in energy. And then the 10 months that don't have a weekend have a smaller peak, and that represents the heartbeat. So here we are in January 2022, and we're heading in towards the April 22nd to 24th, 2022 weekend, and just starting to get some facilitators and have not yet opened up participant registration. But that's the sort of rhythm of events with green, with the weekend every 6 months, and then the other months in between having the heartbeats. And then in the background, the yellow line is you and your team, because whether you're on a Complexity Weekend team, a committee, or whether it's a team you brought to the community or one that you sort of started up with other people you met here. In the background is the actual work that you're doing, creating something or building something and approaching something from a complexity point of view. Anything you want to add to that?
Um, yeah, I think it's just every heartbeat is so different, and it's always exciting who joins us and kind of steps into this very dynamic online community.
If you want to organize a future event, we'll give a little bit more information about that in just a few slides. One other representation in terms of the Complexity Weekend community is as a role-based community. Complexity Weekend, it's a global community of practice, and it's based upon active participation in specific event roles. So whether it's a heartbeat or a weekend, there are different roles at that event. There's facilitators, participants, organizers, associates, and supporters. So the biggest circle is participants. That's everyone. That's everyone's overarching role. Then facilitators and organizers are event-specific roles that either organize or facilitate sessions at a given event. The main two ways that people join into Complexity Weekend are through the monthly heartbeats. So that's the event that you're at right now, whether you're watching this synchronously or in replay, as well as those biannual weekend cohorts. There's also teams forming inside, outside, and on the interface of Complexity Weekend, as well as the committees, which are Complexity Weekend teams, where the system of interest of the team is actually some aspect of Complexity Weekend itself. So let's take a look at the committees as well as how to participate. If you go to this CODA page, which will be pasted in the live chat now, you'll find two pages. The first page on this CODA is the calendar. So this is going to be the most up-to-date schedule of events. So here are the times and the dates for all of the weekends and heartbeats in 2022. And all the dates and times are in UTC. The first UTC interval is describing the UTC time on the first date of the heartbeat. The second interval describes the time on the second date. And then for the weekend, a program is released closer to the weekend itself, but there's continuous activities during the weekend and many, many times more activities. If you scroll down, there are several links to add the calendar to your own personal calendar. And one of these links should work for you, but let us know if it doesn't and we can manually add you. This calendar has the events for all of these heartbeats and weekends laid out. So if you want to be able to reserve time on your calendar multiple months ahead of time, adding one of these calendars is the best way to do it. Then if you go to the committees tab on this CODA, so can't see where I selected it, but the committees tab, these are some of the committees. And one of the activities for this heartbeat is going to focus on what these different committees do in terms of Complexity Weekend in 2022 and beyond. And it's just been awesome to work with so many participants on these different features of the Complexity Weekend community and get them spun up and see how they can help foster individuals and teams in Complexity Weekend. So check out that CODA link, and of course, email us if you have any questions. The committees are awesome ways to get involved and to start participating because there's a rhythm and a single source of truth and a mission that is being active every week, even if you're just checking in once in a while. So if you want to see what working on an applied complexity team is like and also do something that really contributes to Complexity Weekend, the committees are an awesome way to do that. Anything to add on that?
Um, no, I think just the committees are kind of an interesting set of teams because it allows you to directly contribute to the Complexity Weekend sort of community and infrastructure without having to take on one of these more, I guess, serious and formal roles of organizer or facilitator.
Only serious, right, to facilitate.
That's right.
So let's go from the sort of logistics of the community towards our own team, and that's this heartbeat. So, whoops, Jan 22. In the registration for this heartbeat, everyone was asked, pick 5 words in any language that express or describe complexity for you. So here's a word cloud, and we can kind of look at it and see what we see. A few different languages and terms. Emergence looks like it was the winner this month in terms of frequency. And so there's always a few things to pull out in these word clouds, like some common words that multiple people used. Not to say that they're common outside of complexity, but emergence, systems, nature, fascinating. And then there's this long tail of words that maybe only one person used in those RCP fields. And that kind of reflects the types of conversations we can have. Like there's running into somebody who you've never met before, but there's a good chance that you share some common interest in some complexity term. And those are our islands of shared truth. And then there's also all the different perspectives that we bring. Maybe even only one person entered in some of these smaller words, but those are the long tail of interests and perspectives that make being a community really awesome because we can connect on where we have a shared attention, like emergence, but also we can get excited about some of these unexpected or self-organizing meanings that we find when we connect with people.
Um, one word that's really drawing me in is interesting, and it is interesting because it reflects that complexity is something that must be interacted with, and so there's so many components of complexity, and you can simply just go read a textbook about it or watch yet another YouTube video, but it reflects the fact that it's a topic that you are interested in and you want to have a direct interaction and connection with. And so that's really what we're here to do.
Thanks, Sasha. Okay, so to give a little bit more information on what a cohort looks like and how that reflects the Complexity Weekend community, as noted earlier, we haven't quite opened participant registration for the April 2022 cohort, but we completed just a few months ago, short months ago, the November 12th to 14th, 2021 CW cohort. And there's a lot of different axes of variation that we could highlight, but just to give 2 of them, we had a global cohort. We had about 160 registered participants from 56 countries. And we also had a very diverse cohort in terms of their experience with learning and applying complexity. So this figure on the right side of the slide, the x-axis is how familiar are you with learning complexity on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being more familiar. And then the y-axis, how familiar are you with applying complexity, 1 to 10, with 10 being more familiar. And so it's all over the map. Some people said that they had a high familiarity on learning and applying, others just totally beginning, and others with combinations in the middle. And everyone is on an awesome point in their learning journey. Everyone has so much to teach and learn from each other. And so that's kind of the fun of complexity. We're never going to be able to see the whole thing or stop off in every book or every project in our life. So we get to participate in community, though, and share across these different experiences. Individuals also come from many different backgrounds. So this was a question where in the November 21 cohort, people could select multiple options. And so they don't sum up to 100%. Although complexity research and complexity science has been done to a large extent inside of academia or research environments. About 30% of our participants in the November cohort were either students or in academia, and many came from other backgrounds like nonprofit and for profit, industry, government, etc. So we come from many backgrounds, from many countries and time zones. That's part of the fun, and many different levels of familiarity with complexity. So that's sort of the threads as they weave together, but what does bring us together? So I'll read these, and then Sasha, you can give a thought. And of course, anyone who's watching along live, please feel free to just add any comments or let us know what you think about any of these pieces. So what brings us together is a shared purpose and interest in complexity science, a desire to have impact on co-creative teams and to improve our community of practice through feedback, participation, and peer mentorship, and sharing the core values and the desire to develop a community.
Yes. Nothing to add.
Cool. There's a core values document, and we've been working through it on several committees and parsing it and integrating everyone's awesome feedback. So we'll soon have a new core values document, and it's sort of this infinite process to understand, well, how does it look like for a community to have values, and how do we come to collective decisions about what our values are and how they're implemented? So these are all just work in progress. We take the slides and the documents from previous events and we version them over, and then whoever gets to give the slides that time gives their own take. And so it's sort of a complex negotiation there. This is what brings us together, our attention and purpose and interest. What is that purpose? We learn complexity science by doing, we serve through deep time, and we include to innovate. Diversity is key. So there's many ways to sort of parse and reflect on that. Anything you would add?
Yes. I think the focus on deep time is a really unique component of our community, and it's just been really interesting and fulfilling to watch people grow as they continue to participate in our community, and yeah, just really evolve as team members and as complexity science doers and thinkers.
Awesome. Yes. Learning by doing is the active or the enactive turn, and it reflects this sort of inseparable intertwining of action and of implementation, and then serving through deep time and is like going deep, and including to innovate is like going wide in terms of areas that are being connected, just like Michaela wrote in the chat, sparking bridges between disciplines as well as amongst people. Given our collective purpose, how do we enact that? Through values. So here are some of the values, and again, there's the values document. So if anyone's really excited to munch all the great feedback that people have provided and distill it down into community values, then get in touch. But what we have here on this slide is Complexity Weekend is itself a complex system. Education is active. Learn complexity science by doing. Teamwork makes the dream work. Participation means accessibility and inclusion for all. Respect is key. And step up and be brave. Any that you want to reflect on?
Yeah, I think the last one always resonates with me, and just how no matter how welcoming a community is, it's still the very last step is on the participant to step up and be brave and really share what they bring to the community with others. And that is often the hardest step to take.
Lot to say about that, but yeah, agreed with that in our own way, whatever this means That's a participant specific, just like all the values are. And of course, the first one being complexity is kind of where we get to fold back in everything that we're learning and hearing about complex systems into how we think about Complexity Weekend and our own role within that complex ecosystem. From the values, what's the sort of last mile? Well, that's participation. Participation and being in a community of practice means that it's the people who show up and make it happen who are actually involved. So, for those who are here, what are the guidelines, the sort of behavioral strange attractors that help make sure that everything can work well? Recognizing the challenge of the time zone and all the lag of the video and all the fundamental and the ancillary challenges that come along with complexity so that we can make the best of them and take advantage of some of the opportunities that complexity offers as well. So adopt a complexity thinking mindset. Communication is key, relationships and teams. Embrace technology, but know its limits. Use good audio and visual etiquette. Full participation while still appreciating diverse abilities. And then reach out on/to the edges and stay involved.
Yeah, and part of that full participation is showing up to the heartbeats when you can, rewatching this video in replay later, joining in the gather space when it's possible, and just in any way that people show up, we're just thrilled to see you.
All right, awesome. So again, really looking forward to updates on the value document, which includes all these sections and more. And that's something we're working on in a few of the teams. Okay, on to the second piece of the organizer's introduction before we go into the interactive Jamboard. So we are in the January 2022 Heartbeat. This Heartbeat, can you expand on full participation? A question from Michaela. Thanks for the question, Michaela. So I think I'll give a thought. Oh, Sasha's reading my mind. You too? At two, Michaela? It can mean many things, and getting them down in writing in the values document will be really exciting, but there's so many ways to think about full participation, whether it's the time commitment or your sensory availability. Whatever it is that getting engaged in the system is going to look like for you. And if you're not quite sure, then talking to somebody who is more familiar might give you some ideas for how you can participate. And hopefully we make it clear without overloading with information, because there are a lot of pieces in the system, but full participation can mean a lot of things. And we hope it just speaks to how you want to get involved. So the January 2022 Heartbeat organizers, just change the crop here a little bit. This was a co-organized event with Think by Doing with Nathaniel and I. And if you want to organize a Heartbeat, please email complexityweekend@gmail.com. We're looking for co-organizers for most keenly the February and March Heartbeats. Then we'll have the April weekend when we have already a bunch of organizers. And then after that, we'll have more Heartbeats. Pretty much co-organizing a Heartbeat entails 3 to 4 one-hour meetings for some synchronous tasks. And then each person having a little bit of asynchronous work, like sharing the participant RSVP or asking a few facilitators if they'd like to facilitate sessions. So Nathaniel, thanks for the really awesome and insightful contributions in organizing. It was a pleasure to work with you this month, and I hope that you're resting up now and join the second interval refreshed and ready to facilitate. We have 2 facilitators for the January Heartbeat, Yana Taika Metza and Stephen Sillett. And so both of these facilitators are returning facilitators, and they both do really awesome and innovative embodied sessions. And we'll get to the program in a second, but I hope this is some sessions that surprise people and also give them something to think about and engage their body and mind with. They're both going to be really great sessions. All of the sessions are going to be listed in the program. So in the email that you've been sent as a participant, as well as in your calendar event, there's a link to the program. So we're going to briefly just go over the program, then just give a quick note on how to use Gather. And then for the rest of the live stream, we'll go to the Jamboard. And then this live stream, which is rewatchable, it's kind of like the tip of the iceberg, and the rest of the event and the rest of the community is not on stream. So we are in this first session where it is right now about 8:24 UTC on Saturday, January 29th. And we're in this opening live stream with the organizers. You can click on the links to get to the organizers slide deck, the deck that we're using right now, as well as click to the Jamboard that we're going to be using in just a few minutes. Immediately following this live stream, we're going to go into Gather, and it's going to be in the atrium, and the link is in the program as well as in your calendar event. And we'll start with one-on-one sessions. So these are like kind of like remix speed dating sessions where individuals will be randomly paired off and remixed in one-on-one conversations. And this is really how we embody that reaching out on the edge and building strong connections in our community. And it's just always really fun. It's just an opportunity to catch up with people who are interested in complexity and Complexity Weekend. Then at 10 UTC on Saturday, Yana will be facilitating the session Emergent Materiality, and you can click on the description, but this is going to be a very interesting session. And then also following that, Yana will be facilitating the Spotlight Talks, and the Spotlight Talks are up to 5 minutes and just an opportunity for everyone who's there to just share, whether it's an idea that they've learned about or a project that they're excited about or want to bring attention to. It's an opportunity to practice and contribute to the community by just sharing something that you're excited about. And we didn't have any posters submitted this month, but we often have poster sessions there as well. The second interval is in UTC time 0 on Sunday, so it might be a different time and even a different date for you. In the hour leading up to the interval, we'll just hang out and gather. Then we'll start with another one-on-one session. It's going to be different people, so it's always different, but even if it were the same people, it'd still be fun. And Nathaniel is going to facilitate that session. Then the primary attraction will be Steven's facilitated session, Traveling to the Edge of the Fabric Speakeasy. And check out the description, but it's going to be a immersive embodied experience involving some pretty interesting aspects of Gather. And then alternatively, there'll be a discussion about some of the committees and the planning of Complexity Weekend in 2022. And then we'll meet back at 3 in the Center Gather room for Spotlight Talks, just like before, and then we continue hanging out because the atrium, it's always open. You can take your meetings there and connect with other participants there. So that's sort of the program for the January 2022 Complexity Weekend. Sasha, do you want to explain a little bit about Gather?
Sure. So Gather is our permanent virtual conference and co-working space, and it's really fun, and you get to move around using your arrow keys, and as you approach people, you start to hear them, and their screen will come up and you'll start to see them. And when you walk away, just like in real life, you stop hearing them and stop seeing them. But some of the main features can be accessed in the settings little gear icon in the top left here, where you can change some of the features like your name, your avatar, and some of your audio-visual settings, like what camera is being accessed. You can also use the chat function to talk to people nearby or a specific participant, or in some cases to everyone, although judiciously, I guess. You can also see everyone who's present in the gather space at the time by clicking on the little people icon. And if you click on one of the participants, you can actually follow them and find them on the map wherever they are, because the space is quite large, and you can lose people here. You can also use the icons on that bar at the bottom to look at the map of the space so that you can orient yourself and see what other sort of rooms and spaces are around, as well as use the little emoji face to have a little status update, like I don't know, emojis, but also importantly to raise your hand. And if you're having any tech issues and you have your hand raised, we can come and find you or answer your question. And then lastly, as part of this whole video audio setup, remember that you can mute yourself or turn your video on and off in the bottom right hand corner.
Awesome. Thank you, Sasha. And it's a Gather committee project to build this Gather space, and I think they're also renaming into the placemaking, I believe, with Gather just being a component of that. So just sort of in closing here, the best way to support Complexity Weekend is your engagement and time, and also your feedback and your word of mouth recommendations. It's the best way to help our community of practice grow. Everyone is welcome to join a committee and to co-organize an event. And just email us if you have any questions. And then also, if you are enjoying your experience and you feel so inclined, you can consider supporting our community at paypal.me/complexityweekend, or let us know if you want to support via some other mechanism. Those contributions go towards funding future events and supporting our reasonable but actual costs. So let us go to the Jamboard. I've posted a Jamboard link in the YouTube live chat, and additionally, it is in the program. So we're going to now bring the Jamboard in. And so, quick little theme song while we change slides. Okay. All right. So, I'll crop it up. And you want to just describe Jamboard while I crop it?
Great. Okay. So Jamboard is, maybe many of you already know, but is part of like the Google Suite features, and so it looks quite a bit like Google Slides, but is more fun and post-it notes. And so we're going to go through these set of slides and kind of try to answer the questions and prompts that are posted at the top. And you can add in your answer in a text box, on a post-it note, or even paste in an image. And so there's a few ways to participate. And it actually, the most fun is when you can build off of other people's answers and sort of either like draw +1 or have other ways to show how you disagree or agree with someone else's answer.
Yeah, awesome. So it's on the left side, this sidebar, and you can click on the sticky note to add a note. You can also do things like draw with a line. And then right above the slide, there's the 1 of 14, and that's where you can advance from slide to slide. So text, and you can add anything you want. So add in any images. And this is a way that we can have a digital stigmergy and be collectively modifying a shared epistemic niche. It's also a way that we can include our asynchronous community participants, because not everyone is going to be watching along live, but we can leave some traces as we pass through live, and then this document exists for everyone else who will go check out the program afterwards. Okay, so on to the second slide. What is your intention? And we'll do this heartbeat for about, this Jamboard for about 20-25 minutes. We won't do every slide on there. Just giving people some time to write their intention and Sasha to think as well. And then we'll go till about 55, so 20 more minutes here. And then we'll take a 5-minute break and then head to gather for the first one-on-one sessions. So what is your intention today?
Well, I see that at the top we can see the other participants have joined the Jamboard, and I'm sure they're all thinking what to answer as well. And I'm just really still thinking about interesting, and I wonder what is interesting to the Heartbeat participants and what brought them here today. And what components of complexity science are interesting and exciting for them.
Okay, so here's one written: reconnect with people and the community. Yep, that's one of the fun parts about Heartbeats as a informal and free drop-in opportunity, is that it's a chance for people who have been to a bunch of Complexity Weekend events, whether really recently, like in the last Heartbeat, December Heartbeat, or in the November weekend, or perhaps it's been a year, or it's been a little bit longer. So it's an opportunity to reconnect, as well as to connect for the first time, and to pre-connect as we start to build relationships that become meaningful and impactful later. What was my intention today? I want to rest and have a normal circadian rhythm, despite all challenges to the contrary. And also, just this was our first Heartbeat organizing using Coda. And again, Think by Doing had a lot of insights, and we worked together a lot on the documents. So I'm just hoping that as we head into 22, kind of the third online year of Complexity Weekend, which is hard to imagine, but true, fourth actual year and third online year, again, like 20 and 21 being all online and 22 being all online. So it's been challenging and all over the map in the last few years for all number of reasons. So how can we bring our beginner's mind and energy to online participation when everybody could rest or do another video chat? And so how do we really bring our full self and show up for online community? And it helps to see what others write, because that's how we really remember that there's other humans on the other side of that gather telegraph. So learn more while having fun. Yeah, totally. I hope, and from everything I've seen, that's what people try to have in Complexity Weekend. They learn a lot and they have fun and connect at the same time. Learn more about complexity. So someone less focused on fun, but definitely on learning. And then strengthen my brain, exercise it again. Awesome. Okay. So slide 3, here's some tips from Monica Kang on online collaboration. And if anyone else wants to add any tips on online collaboration, it'd be awesome. So we have here, use active listening. So really pay attention when someone is speaking. Be curious and open. Assume kindness. Play by our strengths and over communicate. So we are doing online collaboration even when we're in Gather, even when it's a community event. And by seeing these kinds of interactions as online collaboration, albeit open-ended and sometimes unconventional online collaboration, we open the door to really embody our values, like being curious and assuming kindness, and leaving the door open for somebody who might not be in another complexity setting, but then also who knows where the collaboration can go, because so many interesting projects and connections have happened out of CW. So anything to add on online collaboration?
Um, yeah, just really remembering uh, kindness and patience as we interact through all sorts of barriers and lags and miscommunications. And it's just, yeah, really exciting because when you actually get to interact and introduce yourself to another person, they're providing space and kindness to hear you out. So it just really is a great muscle to flex.
So here someone had added co-facilitate to build bridges and new perspectives. Thanks for sharing that. So facilitation, as Sean is fond of saying, it's kind of like an energy that anyone can bring. All participants can, because the facilitators are the ones who everyone is counting on to show up for their session and have an interactive process that everybody is sort of able to engage in. But this idea of co-facilitating and building bridges in the connections that we have is something that everyone can do, and experiment with different formats. Sounds awesome. If you want to list any different formats, or if you'd like to help us experiment with those formats, that could be really great. So um, let's do slide 4. Here we have, who are you and how did you discover complexity? Here's a nice ball of yarn, the ball of stories. So where does that strike you today? Who are you and how did you discover complexity?
Um, I guess one way to introduce myself is as a researcher, and discovered complexity by happening to be friends with and interact with people who uh, knew about complexity and were participating in Santa Fe Institute and those kinds of groups. And I just, yeah, learned about it through social connections and wanting to be part of that exciting story of complexity and the new lens that it can bring to studying biology.
Cool. So on this slide, we have ideas, people, and tools. And sometimes we use that troika, that set of 3, when we're in the weekend getting familiar, because getting familiar with complexity, come on in, the water's fine, it really does have a dimension on each of these. For example, there are ideas of complexity, and those are some of the key terms that get thrown around and the words that come up, and fractal and scale free and all of that, the ideas of complexity. Some of them we saw on the word cloud earlier. Then, especially as one gets more involved in the application of complexity, whether in a complexity research project or a more application oriented use, there are the tools of complexity. And then the part that really keeps us going in community, but serves as an onboarding opportunity for all of us, really, it's the people of complexity. And so that's everyone who's showing up and throwing down the post-its, but a bunch of other people involved as well. So here we have, how did you discover complexity? So a biomimicry practitioner and through living systems. And yes, it's a small sample size, but it's kind of like a biological portal. And complexity of living systems, us being living systems and life forms and ecosystems. I think the livingness of complexity and the idea of having scientific frameworks that really relish in that, and also seeing biological complexity as a starting point, not an ending point, it's really exciting. So we'll keep on going. Let's go to 5. What is something you are curious or wondering about? Also, were there more time, a larger margin, more facilitators joining the discussion. Of course, we could expand and hear 30 people share on the idea. This is just kind of like a quick run through some of the questions and prompts to get you thinking and excited. And again, this is asynchronously available, so you can always go back and add more information or check to see later what others have written. And you can also add your Keybase username or soon your Complexity Weekend ID. You can add that to the post-it note, and that'll be like a way for people to connect like a bulletin board. But what is something on slide 5 that you are curious or wondering about?
Um, well, based on the previous responses and thinking about biology, I'm really curious um, what we can learn about new formats for facilitation inspired by biomimicry and how that can be applied to some of the um, Complexity Weekend committees and I guess really going out there, ecosystem roles that can be sort of adapted to the Complexity Weekend community.
Would be awesome. What are some new formats for facilitation? Seems like someone, oh, and here's just one more. How did you discover complexity? So, discovered computation complexity first in hard logistics problems, but much greater discovery 10 years later in adaptive systems and anthropological complexity. That's awesome. Makes me wonder about that, but let's explore like what are some new formats for facilitation. Of course, we can always go quickly through slides, but I think this is a kind of great point and probably something we're all curious about. We've all been in video chats and the lecture format, and the facilitated sessions are not lectures, they're interactive, but still we have some formats that we rest upon. So, how do we give familiarity and recognizability to the sessions and make them accessible and not esoteric or difficult to grasp, but also new? And so here we see new collaborations, new ideas, kind of a similar theme of novelty, but also novelty aligned with complexity people, like collaborations and tools. That's what actually gets the collaboration done, and ideas. And then here, sensory nutrition. I have some suspicions on who could have written that, but that's interesting. Like a nutrition label um, for different sensory experiences.
Games.
Games, serious or not? Yes, serious games. Okay. Oh, nice. So someone put it here with new formats for facilitation. Yes.
Hmm.
Um, that could be fun, like for a facilitator to kind of, it's like they're just the game
Master.
master slash roller. Um,
I
well,
like the set of post-its, perhaps inspired by the new year and the start of one cycle. Um, but I'm very excited about thinking of new formats for facilitation because just in the last year, we introduced the one-on-ones as part of the pre-weekend experience, and they're so, I guess, well regarded, well loved, that now they've become part of the heartbeats as well. And so, even though it seems totally natural and totally par for the course for our community, that was a new form of facilitation that we added. And I'm looking forward to seeing other formats that just make sense and fit right into our community.
cool. And emergent and brainstorming through silence. Yep, that really feels right today. Like it's just too easy to switch from video call and have chatter, and it would be kind of cool. Like, hey, let's take 10 minutes to collect our thoughts, whether we write something down or not, and then we're gonna be really ready to connect. It's kind of like intermittent fasting for conversation. Like you take a little break, and then that is what keeps it exciting. And then here, collaborative facilitation, rotating roles. That's a great idea as well. So it's a, as with other complexity uh, ideas, I guess, it's kind of multi-scale. Like at the community level, we do have collaborative facilitation and rotating roles because there's somebody who might be a facilitator today, like Yana and Steven, but then they'll be a participant in the future or be an organizer. And so facilitation is a collaborative role. It's open to anybody who wants to get involved. But then I wonder if this is pointing towards like a micro collaborative facilitation that could probably look a few different ways. And I think all these really play well together as well. What if there was a game that involved silence and collaborative facilitation? And so that's also part of the fun when we use these asynchronous ways to modify our niche because we can start to connect like, oh, well, what are the new ideas in the game? Or I don't know about sensory nutrition. That's a new idea. So how could we learn about that through this? And so we start drawing that red yarn, all the connections on our board, and new ideas and connections can arise from there. Okay, so let's go to 6. How can complexity have impact in real world systems? And so here we can kind of unpack it a little bit. We have, how have you successfully applied complexity or not? How and where would you want to apply complexity? So let me read these and then Sasha, happy to hear what you think. So all human communication, ecosystems, systems thinking, and systems innovation. So what do you think?
Um, all awesome answers. Uh, I love all human communication because um, it's just many facets of that of uh, education and um, kind of the ways that we communicate on multiple scales and try to interact with other humans and increasingly non-humans. And I think there's a lot of really fun complexity built into that.
Yes, this is a slide that I wish we could have 500 people adding their thoughts and connecting the dots because it's so much to learn, but there's so much to do in the real world. And there's so many possibilities that haven't been tried and so many places where complexity has been applied, but it didn't use the word complexity. And so how we actually talk about the applications of complexity, it's just important for a lot of reasons. Um, it gives tangible examples to those who are looking for them and inspiration for those who are looking for that. And this is the kind of stuff where, again, in the heartbeat, the sort of informal and drop in, these are the questions that we dip in. This is the hot tub version of the question. And then the weekend is like the ocean version, not because it's colder, but that's where we really have the weeks to actually draw out some of these connections. And the heartbeat is kind of like a flash mob. Like a few people drop in, and that's when we have these sort of quick connections and espresso version of complexity. And then there's the low and slow where you actually connect with somebody who goes, human communication, I'm working on something like that, or I have time in my schedule to do something like that. Build high performance teams. Awesome. And I'm sure there's a ton of other adjectives that could be added, like resilient or accessible, inclusive teams, infinite teams. And it's not the only way to break down or project the different kinds of teams in CW, but it's almost like On one side, there are those who are looking for high performance teams, something kind of like a hackathon, people who really want to connect with others who are going to get it done and help each other do that. And then at the same time, not opposed to being a high performance team is being like a team that welcomes new participants on. And that's together really powerful. Bodied movement, responsive bodied movement, also super interesting. So of course, there's many slides and many awesome things to continue talking about, and so feel free to go through asynchronously. The slide 8, we talk a little bit about desires and wishes, as well as tensions and frictions, but feel free also to modify those. But we don't quite have time to go through this one today. I think that I'll just close these last few minutes here just by noting again, it's this Coda page, coda.io/@complexityweekend/complexityweekend, where you can see the dates and times and also the RSVP links if you want to RSVP as a facilitator or an organizer for any of these upcoming Heartbeats and other events. And then also that's where you'll find the committees. And in the second interval, we'll have a session that's more about that. But of course, email us if you'd like to contribute to any of these CW teams. So also, sometimes when we have a little bit more time, we can talk about the what individuals in the community are like looking to give and receive. And again, this is kind of an informal thing. So excited to show everybody what we've been working on in Dot website, where we're going to take this sort of post-it note paradigm and connect it with like a login and a user portal, and it's going to be just great. So I can't wait till this is something that's not just transient on a Jamboard, even though that's like semi-permanent in a sense, but really take it to the next level where people can connect. And then team members. So if anybody wants to post there, and in .teams committees, that's one of the main focus is helping teams connect with individuals and individuals connect with teams and just make that process well structured and enjoyable for everybody. So with that being said, Sasha, you will have the last word, and then we will take a few-minute break and then meet in the Gather atrium, where the rest of the Heartbeat activities will be. So please, Sasha.
I just wanted to close and say thank you for your full participation, because these prompts are not just for conversation. They really are genuine asks of our community for our participants. And thank you for participating and providing those thought-provoking answers.
Thanks for sharing that. Of course, more to say, but that's what the rest of the activities are for. So we'll close out just a few minutes before the hour, really quick live stream. And thanks a lot, Sasha, for joining. We'll see you in a couple of minutes or whenever in Gather. And we'll start the one-on-one session in just a few minutes. So thanks, everybody. Peace, and see you soon.